you can draw this in Procreate. If you thought last week's goldfish tutorial was a bit too challenging, or if you just hate goldfish, then you might like this tutorial. We are going to create this scene with a rocket, and I am going to guide you through every single step, so you don't need any experience with Procreate or with drawing. All you have to do is follow this video all the way till the end, and don't forget, once you are finished, you can share your work on Instagram, tag me in the image, not just in the description, and perhaps we'll see your work in the next video. And before we get started, don't forget that if you want to support this channel, if you want to see more You Can Draw This videos, then don't forget to give a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. You can do that right now actually, I'll just wait. Okay. First of all, the canvas, it's 2300 pixels by 3000 pixels, and I have the color profile set to sRGB. And if you want to use the exact same colors as I'm using during this tutorial, then you can download the color palette through the link in the description. You can see it, well, you can't see the link, but you can see the color palette right here. These are the colors we'll be using, and we are going to start by adding a color to the background. We'll go to the layer menu here, then click background color, and we'll pick this first color over here. Then we'll go back to the layer menu and we are going to work on layer 1. First thing we'll do is create a circle, and we'll do that by using the monoline brush, which you can find under calligraphy. It's a Procreate standard brush. Let's make it a little bit bigger. I'll go for 20%. The opacity is at 100%. And for the color, we are going to pick this second color over here. And you can easily create a circle in Procreate. All you have to do is make like a wobbly circle, hold your pen in place to make it snap to a quick shape, and then hold one finger on your screen to make it snap to a perfect circle. And now we can fill this circle by dragging in this circle into our circle. We'll duplicate this circle by going to the layer menu and then sliding to the left and clicking duplicate. And we'll pick a different color. We'll go to this color over here, that third color, and we'll drag in the color again to fill this new circle. Now we want to make sure that both of these circles are centered on our canvas. So let's select both of these layers. You can do that by sliding to the right on that other layer. Now they are both selected. And we'll go to the arrow tool here at the top. And now go to snapping and make sure that snapping is turned on. Now when you move your circle around, you'll see these lines. And once you see two orange lines, you are in the center of your canvas. Now click the arrow again to get out of the menu. And now we'll want to select that second circle only. So click once on that layer and then go back to the arrow again to make this one a little bit smaller. Make sure you have it set to uniform over here. And now you can just drag one of these handles to make this circle a little bit smaller. Let's go for something like this and then drag it around to make sure that it's in the center of that other circle. This is looking good. Then just click the arrow again to get out of that menu. Now I want to add a gradient to this circle. Let's go to the layer menu, click this layer, that purple layer, and set it to alpha lock. Now when we paint on this layer, the paint will only show up on that circle. It won't go outside where you see that little checkerboard pattern. For our brush, we are going to the airbrushing brushes and use the soft brush. For the color, we will pick this fourth color over here in the color palette. I have the opacity of this brush set to 80% and the size is at 20%. And now let's darken the top side of the circle, the upper area. And I'm using very little pressure on my pen because when you are using a pen with pressure sensitivity, the harder you press, the more paint will come out. Now let's make this gradient a little bit smoother. We can do that by going to the magic wand here at the top, then using Gaussian blur, set it to layer, and now you can drag your pen to the right on your screen to make that gradient more smooth. Let's go for something like 34.5% and then just click the magic wand again. Now we'll start creating the clouds. And we don't want our clouds to show up outside of our circle. Now to make sure that they won't show up outside of our circle, we'll go to the layer menu. We'll click the plus for a new layer. Click that layer and we'll turn clipping mask on. Now that our new layer is clipped to that circle, whatever we paint on this layer 3 that is clipped will only show up on that circle. Now, if you have been watching my other You Can Draw This videos, then of course you already know this, but I'll just keep repeating it so you will never forget and you'll start dreaming about clipping masks. Now that we have this clipped layer, we are going to switch back to the monoline brush and we are going to pick this first color over here in the color palette. And now we are going to create wobbly lines. It's my specialty. Let's start on the left side here. And we will wobble our way to the lower right. And just make a nice variety of wobbles. Make some a little bit bigger. Some will be a bit smaller. And we can go to the lower right here. You don't have to make any wobbles there. Then we'll loop around and close our shape there, because otherwise we won't be able to fill it, of course. Drag in the color and we have our first cloud. Now let's make a new layer because we want more. Let's go to the layer menu, click the plus for a new layer, then click that layer and turn clipping mask on because we don't want our next cloud to show up outside of that circle either. Let's switch to the next color over here. And let's start here in the lower left corner. We'll make a smooth line up and then we'll start wobbling here. And we'll wobble to the upper right. Vary your wobbles. Go lower a bit. Low here. Then loop around. Make sure you close your shape. And then drag in the color to fill it. Let's do this again. We'll go to the layer menu again. Click the plus for a new layer. Click the layer and turn on clipping mask. And we'll switch to the third color. We'll start a bit lower here on the left side. Create some nice wobbles here. And we'll go all the way to the right. And let's just make a flowing line here and then loop back around to close the shape. Then drag in the color to fill it. Let's make one more. Let's go to the layer menu again, click the plus for a new layer, click the layer and turn on clipping mask and switch to the next color, the fourth color over here in the color palette. Let's start a bit lower again. And wobble to the right. Don't forget to vary your wobbles until you reach the right side, then loop back around and drag in the color. Let's just add a little wobble here as well. And fill that. Now that we have these 4 wobbly cloud shapes, we can actually merge these 4 layers with clouds. You can do that by pinching them together. Now we are going to make 4 more layers of clouds. Make sure that you click the plus for a new layer first, click the layer, and then select clipping mask. And we'll go to the next color, that's the 5th color here in the color palette. Let's start a little bit above that cloud here. Let's start here. Wobble down a little bit. You can make some nice overlaps between the cloud shapes. Go all the way down, then loop back up to close the shape, and then fill. Then another one. Let's go to the layer menu, click the plus, click the layer, select clipping mask, and then go to the next color. That's this one over here. And let's start about here, make a swooping line up, and then start wobbling. Make big wobbles and small wobbles, vary the shapes. Now let's go up a little bit here, and then loop back around and fill your shape. Then another one. Let's go to the layer menu again. Click the plus, click the layer, turn on clipping mask, and then go to this color. That's the 7th color. Let's start about here. Now, the reason we are making separate layers for these clouds is that if you would do this on one layer, then you wouldn't be able to fill your shape. So you could make them on one layer, but then you would have to color them in by hand. And that's just too much work. Let's fill this shape. Let's again make a new layer, click the plus, click the layer, turn on clipping mask, and let's go to the final color over here. So yeah, that's why we're making separate layers first and then merging them. Let's start wobbling here. Make some nice small wobbles. Loop back around, and let's make another cloud over here. Loop back around, and then fill these two shapes by dragging in the color. Now let's merge these 4 layers just like we did with the first 4. Let's pinch them together, and now we are going to lower the opacity of these layers. You can do that by clicking the N right here, and then you'll see this opacity slider, and let's slide it to 70%. Then click the layer again, then go to that other one, click the N here as well. Now let's turn that to 70 as well. Now let's create our rocket. I want to create it on a layer between layer 3 and 4. So first let's click layer 3 and then click the plus to create a layer in between those layers. To create the rocket, I want to use the symmetry tool. We can use the symmetry tool by going to the wrench over here, then to canvas, then turn on drawing guide, and then go to edit drawing guide. And here at the bottom you see symmetry. Let's turn that on and then click done. We'll still be using the monoline brush, and for the color we will use this color over here, that first one. And first let's make our brush a little bit smaller. Let's go for 5%. Let's start about here. Go to the right, diagonally up, and then close the shape here. So you get some kind of suppository shape. Then drag in the color, and then let's add a triangular shape here near the bottom. A bit like this. And then you can fill that little shape as well. And now we have a pretty basic rocket shape. Don't worry if you're having trouble creating the shape. You can try like 100 times. You can just use the 2-finger tab to undo and just keep going until you have something that looks a bit similar to this. Now we are going to create like that fire trail underneath our rocket. Let's make a new layer for that. We'll click layer 3 first, then click the plus for a new layer. And we'll want to use symmetry here as well. And you can turn that on by clicking the layer and then turning on drawing assist. And you can see the layer is assisted now. That means that symmetry is turned on. Let's change our color. We'll go to the color palette and pick this yellow over here. We are going to make a swooping line starting here near the rocket and then down to this area. And again, you might need a couple of tries to do this. Don't worry about that. Start about here and swoop down. And then make sure that you close the shape. So go to the center and close it here as well. Behind the rocket, just go to the center. And then you can drag in the color to fill your shape. Now we'll create a new layer for the next color. So click the plus for a new layer. And again, make sure that you turn on drawing assist so that symmetry is turned on. Let's switch to the next color over here. And again, let's make that swooping motion. So we'll start here, swoop down, close the shape by going to the center, and then you can drag in the color to fill it. Let's do that one more time. Let's click the plus for a new layer, click that layer, turn on drawing assist, and then use that 4th color over here. All right, let's start here, swoop down, close the shape, and then drag in the color to fill it. Now that we have created these 3 colors, we can actually merge these 3 layers by pinching them together And now we are going to use a layer mask on this layer. We'll turn that on by clicking the layer and then clicking mask. What a layer mask does is it can mask parts of the layer that it is attached to. When the layer mask is completely white, you will see everything on the layer underneath. But when you start using black on that layer, you'll start masking parts. And the great thing is that if you have masked a part but you want to unmask it, you can just use white on that layer mask to make it appear again. So it's a bit like non-destructive erasing. And we are going to do that by using the airbrushing brush, the soft brush, and we have it set to pure black. So we can mask parts of this layer with that fire trail. And we'll start here near the bottom and gently go over that trail to make it fade toward the bottom. So make sure that the top part is still visible and just gently go over that bottom part so that it fades towards the bottom. And don't worry if you have messed up, you can also just switch to pure white by tapping here, double tapping here, you'll have pure white and you can just paint back in parts. But I actually like the way it looks. Let's go to the wrench and turn off the drawing guide so we don't have that line anymore. But the layer is still has symmetry turned on actually. When you go to the layer menu, you can see that these layers are still assisted. But we won't be working on these layers anymore, so it's not really important. We are actually going to add some stars to our scene, and we will do that on a layer that is behind our clouds. So let's click layer 1 and then click the plus for a new layer, and let's start adding stars here. We'll do that by using the light pen, which you can find under luminance. And we'll use this color for that. I have the opacity of this brush set to 100% and the size is at 95%. And let's just start adding some random stars. And if you're using a pressure sensitive brush, a pen like the Apple Pencil, then the harder you press with this brush, the bigger your star will become. If you don't have a pressure sensitive, a pen with pressure sensitivity, then you might just need to adjust the size of your brush to make a variety of stars. That's a bit too big. I pressed a bit too hard. Also add some stars here behind the clouds. Make these little clusters. And just make a nice variety. Until you have filled the entire sky with that nice variety of stars. Now, I assume you already did it at the beginning of the video, but if you have forgotten, then if you want to support this channel, don't forget to give that thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. That way I'll know I should keep making these You Can Draw This videos. And if you want to learn more about Procreate, if you really want to dive into digital painting in Procreate, then be sure to check out my Patreon page because there I share a lot of in-depth video tutorials. Alright, I think this is enough stars. Let's add two bigger planet-like things. Let's click the plus for a new layer. And let's go back to the monoline brush, which you can find under calligraphy. It's still there. Let's create a little circle over here. Hold your pen in place. Tap one finger on the screen to make a perfectly round circle. And then drag in the color to fill it. And let's create another one over here, a smaller one. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen, and I'll just color this in by hand. Because filling such a small shape, it's very hard. Because look, when you try to fill it, the circle is bigger than that small shape. So let's just not do that. Alright, let's add a little bit of a glow. We'll do that by duplicating this layer by sliding to the left, clicking duplicate. Then I'll pick that lower layer, go to the adjustments menu, that little magic wand, and we'll pick Gaussian blur. Pick layer, then slide to the right to add a little glow. Let's go for 10.5% and click the magic wand again to get out of that menu. And there you have it, your little rocket scene. I hope you have enjoyed following this tutorial. I'm looking forward to seeing your results, and I want to thank you for watching. I'll see you next week for the next You Can Draw This video tutorial.